Welcome to Real Estate Power, where you can learn how to step up your real estate game from top real estate producers. With your host, Devin Bunnell, author with an Amazon best-selling book. If you want to know what will take your business to the next level, here is where you will learn how.
So today we're here with Stephen Ostler with Realty Path, and the first question we start off with is how many families have you helped so far in 2018?
I averaged 98 over a 12-month period, and I'm still tracking the same average. So, do about 8 transactions per month. So times that by 9 months, I'm sure it's right around about 72 transactions.
Yeah, and then are you a one-man band?
Yes, I'm the realtor, and then I have a transaction coordinator that I pay $2.99 per file closed, and then I do have 2 virtual assistants that I hire out of the Philippines that have 15 years sales experience and bachelor's degrees that I pay roughly $5.85 an hour to just set up all my appointments for me, so I can just list and so I can present and list while they're putting together my appointments for me.
That's awesome. So then what's your daily schedule like right now?
I always tell people I am available as their agent as long as I get 8 hours sleep. My wife is happy, my kids are happy, I'm there. So I eat, drink, and sleep real estate. It's not a job, it's a life. It's a life commitment. It's something though that I have passion for and truly love. So I do not feel like I work. I start off by when I go to bed, I just set my alarm for 8 hours later, and then I wake up, exercise for about 20 minutes, and then shower, eat, and then I go and pick up my phone. I don't sleep next to my phone. I keep my phone away from me, but so that when I am on, I am focused and I have plenty of energy. In order to keep up my pace, I live a very healthy diet, where it's a lot of fruits, proteins, and fruit and vegetables, protein, and stay away from processed foods and canned foods. I don't eat out. I just pack a lunch, but I start off by answering people's texts, emails until my first appointment for the day, which could be anywhere from 10 or 1 o'clock, and I usually have anywhere from 1 to 3 listing presentations or new buyer appointments per day, and then and so I in between appointments, as I'm driving from appointments, I'm returning text, phone calls, and so that I'm caught up in between appointments, and then I don't get home until approximately 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and then I may at that point in time, if I had any offers or clients making offers, between maybe 9 and 10:30, I'm writing up the offers. I don't stop in the middle of the day to write up the offer because I don't want to slow down the momentum and interfere with my other appointments. But that's kind of a.
So, I mean, I've done a lot of interviews, and you're the first one that has a set time at night, right? So that reality, you're not burning the candle at both ends of the stick, right? How did you realize that you had to have like that 8 hours of sleep, and when did you start implementing that?
I'm 43. I think it hit me when I was approaching 40, and I realized that I wasn't 20 anymore. And so I kind of just told my wife, hey, I can pretty much do anything if I get 8 hours sleep. So she's kind of learned to let me have my 8 hours sleep.
Oh, that's awesome. So what did you do before we started this? You said that you've been in real estate for 20 years. What did you do in the beginning that was making you successful at real estate?
I think it started before then. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always loved sales, but I've loved strategic sales. I'm a type of salesman that loves to educate my clients, and I always show them my competitive advantages over anyone else. So the sales process actually becomes pretty easy for me. There's really no convincing. I started off when I was younger. I owned my own landscape lawnmower company and did that. Used to sell myself, going door to door. Then when I went on a 2-year mission, came home and went to Snow College, and then from Snow College I went up to Utah State. While I was at Utah State, I started a sales and marketing company where students would fill out their first credit card applications for Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. And I'd make them a t-shirt, like a John Belushi type college t-shirt, or some type of novel t-shirt, like maybe a Superman emblem, or something to do with like maybe Curious George sniffing ether. It was just kind of comical. I'd have kids make that t-shirt for $2, and the credit card companies would would pay me $20 to $25 a head. And so this was back in 2000 there. I think it was 99. I think I got married in 99, and actually this happened in 99. I was doing this, and because I was engaged to my wife at the time, and at that time I would make an average of about I signed up about 300 to 500 kids a week, and I would make about $7,500 to $10,000 a week back then. With inflation, imagine that's twice that today. But then I would travel to every major university across the United States, and in the fall hit up the new freshmen, get them their first credit cards to help them establish credit. Then I'd go to school spring and summer, didn't have to work at all, and as I'd walk to campus, I wanted to own real estate. So the first home I bought was a home with a mother-in-law apartment. We lived in the basement. I rented out the upstairs, so we lived there rent-free. And I would make over 6 figures each year. And at that time, real estate prices were half as much, and I would buy apartment complexes that were within walking distance of schools. So by the time I graduated from college in 2002, I had 32 units, 11 properties, and more passive income than expenses. I wanted something bigger, so I got out of the Logan market where I was going to Utah State, came down to Salt Lake, and in Salt Lake I used some of my equity and to actually get into private money lending, or a private money lender, hard money lender. Did that, and even before that, though, I went to appraisal school in 2000, but I realized that watching other people make money and appraising their homes was not something I would enjoy. I wanted to be the one doing the transactions and making the real estate investments, making the money. So I dropped appraisal I did right after schooling. At one point in time, I was working as a private lender. I got my loan officer license, but that was a little boring for me because I didn't like to sit behind a desk. And but I got into private lending. I kind of liked that because I was setting my own terms, my own conditions. That went really well until spring of 2007. At that point in time, I saw the recession coming. I liquidated my real estate holdings, and then the private money lending. There were some builders that defaulted on us. I had to foreclose on them to get money back. It was a great recession. It was hard for me at that point in time, like anyone else, But during 2009, my wife and I opened up a home and auto insurance agency. It was a brokerage, and there we started. I realized I needed something recession-proof. By law, everyone has to buy home and auto insurance, but people do not, by law, have to buy a home. And so with that, we got that agency up and going for 5 years, where we got a handful of employees to run it on autopilot, and I was able to pull myself out of it. And that's when I decided to get involved with more real estate transactions besides selling my own properties. I said, you know what, I'm gonna get out there and sell other clients' properties. So then I actually got in and started selling property for others about 2.5 years ago. It was kind of actually like maybe 3 years ago. I sold my first property for a brother-in-law, but I had to fail forward as I was there. I just fell forward. Like I knew that with my business skills, my experience, that it wouldn't take too long failing forward, that I could actually turn it into something very profitable. So actually I went into, it was fall of 2015. I started listening to along the years, I've gone to a lot of guru seminars. I've listened to, Robert Kiyosaki. I've listened to Russ Whitney. I was familiar with many other ones as well. And then, Nouveau Riche was a local Utah company I was familiar with. But I said, you know what, I don't need to really spend that much money to really get the tools I really need at this point in time because of the internet, and because I really believe that those gurus don't have anything to really offer. They just kind of just rehash what available material they already have out there, and they just mark it up and to highly paid salesmen. But I went to Harris University. It was like free. I used to listen to their podcast. They have about 150,000 listeners across the United States who listen to their daily podcast, and I listen to them every single morning as I exercise for 30 days. I paid $100 to $300 to go through their 6-month curriculum, where they taught me all the little ins and outs of how to list it, how to get an expired listing, a for sale by owner listing, how to hire a virtual assistant out of the Philippines. And I was just listening to them closely, and I listened to also mastermind agents, like $200 for the year, and I can listen to people who've sold $50 million a year in real estate. I've listened to people who are selling $100 million a year in real estate, and I was listening to some of their great ideas. And then I was at that point in time, I got my license with Realty Path in I think 2015 ish, and then I was going through their rookie program and listening to all this, and I had this great idea. One of the guys that did a podcast said, hey, what I did in California is I put out 40 signs for a open house, and every time I put out 40 signs, I get a transaction out of it. And I said, well, that's a quick way to get a transaction. So I spent $2,500 in signs. I went to another agent who was in my office, said, hey, can I borrow your listing and do an open house? And I did an open house for him. I didn't sell his house, but a client came by and he said, Steve, I've never seen an agent market so hard with 40 signs. And it did take me 2 hours to set up, 2 hours to take down. And he said, Steve, if anyone can sell my house, it's you. And this other agent cannot sell my house, even though he's been in the business a long time. I'm canceling my contract with him on Sunday. I want you to come over on Monday. I came over on his house on Monday, and I helped him with staging his house. I said, you need to get that treadmill out of your living room, and you need to clean up that bird poop off your doorsteps and off your door. You need that missing rail put back on your steps. And so I said, don't worry about it. My handyman and my cleaning ladies will do all this for you. And he says, really? I said, absolutely, don't worry about it. I got it all done. The other agent did not take professional photography. They took some cheap photos with their cell phone. I sent over my professional photographer. I put it back on the market, and all I did was a small $5,000 price adjustment, and I had 4 offers on the property where no other agent, with this other agent with, I think he had about 10 years previous experience, couldn't get the home sold, and he was, and so, at that point in time, I knew I had something, but I had to figure out how to get more clients in. So I was dabbling with all lead sources. I never believe in the holy grail. There's never a holy grail for lead sources, because once you think you got a really good one, it stops working. But I always believe in always spending some money on research and development, trying to find the next one. And so I spent some money on some companies who were doing Facebook marketing and Google marketing, and I would just keep track of their return on investment. And which one? I found one about May of 2016. It was really good with Facebook. I went up there. And during this, though, I was working really hard to make sure I had the best listing presentation out there. I didn't want a canned listing presentation, so I actually went through Harris University and for their small little price tag of up to I think it could have been $250 a month for 6 months. They actually also helped me have my own personal strong listing presentation that no other agent has or even compares to what I have to offer. And I pulled my competitive advantages together and one of my listing presentation from a first appointment I set, and I got a person that was selling and buying, and so I was able to afford that lead source by taking the $12,500 commission from that open house that I did, and I was just kind of putting it in different areas, and I found a really good one with Facebook. And then I started to team up with a loan officer. We shared the expense of that, and then over time I just ratcheted up to about $15,000 a month in marketing and 8 transactions per month. And I just follow a really good system where I make sure I'm really good at multitasking and following systems and that allows me to do that many transactions. So hopefully that helps there.
No, that's a lot of information. So let me back up a little bit on a couple questions for you. So reality is you didn't start selling until 2015.
Correct.
As a licensed realtor.
No, I sold my first house fall of 15. I didn't really start selling until middle of 16, and then 2017 was my first full year at Realty Path. That year I did 98 transactions and nearly $29 million in gross sales. So I was their number one agent for commission and production, and it was crazy, but it really just comes down to having business experience and offering things to clients that nobody else wants to offer or will offer, and to help them through situations. I've learned to listen to clients. I listen, what is their hot button? Okay, how can I address that hot button and come up with a solution? If I do that, I know I got the listing.
So right now you said that you have a competitive advantage that you show in all your listing appointments.
Yep.
Can you give me more details on what you feel like your competitive advantage is?
A lot of agents have heard I do this and they think I'm crazy. But if I come across the client and their house needs deferred maintenance or repairs done, or it needs to be remodeled, I will loan my client anywhere from $1,000 to $30,000 to and just put that on my business line of credit, and I'll loan them that to improve the value of their home and get them a top dollar for their home. So when I tell my clients I'm going to get them top dollar, they know it, because I put my money where my mouth is. And
so then, do they have to use your handyman contractors?
No, they can.
Or do you let them kind of run it?
No, they actually the way that they fill out a second contract stating that they understand that it was a contract my attorney drafted up that states that Realty Path is not a contractor, and this is a separate contract outside of Realty Path that they've entered into with my company that they're borrowing money from, and they're just obligated to repay that money, but they can pick any contractor of their free will and choice. But usually they want to go with my contractors and my experience, because I've done this enough times that I know which contractors can get it done in a timely manner and for a good value. And so I over the years picked up really competitive plumbers, electricians, drywall, carpet guys, people who are really good with deferred maintenance and painting. So I know which contractor to put on what job.
So do you coordinate that for them also,
Correct.
or do you only provide them with the number?
Nope, I coordinate for them. I say, here's a couple to choose from. Who would you like? And I'll send them over a couple people, and then they'll give them different estimates. And so, which one do you feel comfortable with? And then they'll pick one. And so, sounds good to me. And here's and I give the check directly to the contractor, and it does not go to the customer.
Do you do like a mechanic's lien on the home as well?
Depending on the amount of money, I will file a trustee note.
Okay. And that way you're also protecting yourself, right?
Correct.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never heard of anybody else doing that.
Yeah, usually at two sides of the spectrum. You get agents, and then you get investors. You don't really get anyone in the middle, and that's what what clients are looking for. Is looking for a third choice, especially in this information age when they can go on the internet and they're expecting choices and options. And so most agents out there just want to show up and just list a home. Like here's an example. I showed up to, step back here. It was about 3 weeks ago. My assistant called in a lead and called them. And they said, "Oh, we've already spoken to another agent. There's no need for you to come over." And then my assistant said, "Are you sure now? Have you signed any contract with that other agent?" "No, we have not." "You know what? My Steve here offers a handyman service." And she said, "Oh, my home needs a lot of work done on it." "You know what? Have them come over." I came over. And I went through their house, and needs new paint, new carpet. They lived there only 5 years, but they got 7-8 people living there. Went downstairs, and they had a soaked carpet. You can already start to smell the mold. And there was a missing cabinet drawer. There were some burnt out light bulbs, and some doors with holes in them. And I gave them a value in their home. I said, "Your home, I could sell it based on today's numbers at $315,000. And she goes, "Wow, really?" And I always do the CMA, the market analysis, with the client on my iPad in person. I do not come over with a black and white pieces of paper because they have no idea how I derive the value, and I do not email them the analysis. I'll email them a range off of Zillow, maybe. "Oh, you're between this range and that range," but I don't know until I know coming into your house, and then that's how I get in the house. And so I came in and said, "I'm at 315." And she goes, "Well, Steve, I did meet this other agent, and they said they can only get 290." I said, "Oh, really? Okay. But let me think about this. Let me talk to my husband." It says, "I like how you do offer your handyman service. My house doesn't need a lot of work. I think the other agent offers a handyman service." Anyhow, she said, "I can talk to them." So I get in my car, I come home. The other agent calls me up, yelling at me, and says, "I can't believe you just spoke to my client." I go, "Your client? Do you have a contract with them?" "No." "But Steve, anytime that a prospective client's ever talked to another agent, if I hear they've spoken to another agent, I don't get, I just let it go." I go, "You know what? I believe it's fair game until you have a contract." But she goes, "Oh, I disagree. I've seen cases like this go to the Utah Division of Real Estate." I said, "Okay, you know what? How about we do this? You call your broker, I'll call mine. Let's have them both talk." I called my broker, and she said, "Yeah, Steve, they don't have a contract." And the other broker never called my broker. I get and then the homeowner calls me up the next morning and says, "Steve, I just think I'm going to go with the other agent because I did contact them first. I said, and so I did send them a text that I would go with them. I go, but did you sign a contract? No. I said, do this. Don't sign a contract with any of us until you get all the information. Okay? And this is the information you should get. 1, what's the sales price? 2, the cost of fixing up the home. And 3, and so let me step back there. So I said, 1, get the sales price. 2, get the cost of repairs. 3, who's going to cover those repairs? And 4, what's the bottom line? And also, who's going to fix your credit? And you said you're in the 400s. And so, and I said, I'll have my contractor. He's going to come over tomorrow. He'll work up an estimate for you. Oh, here's my credit repair guy. He'll have your credit fixed in 60 days. So he called the other agent. The other agent said, handyman? Oh, yeah, let me call one. He calls the handyman, tries to send him over. He never shows up. I show up with my contractor the next day, and the client said, oh, the other agent's photographer came over, and I told him my house is not even ready to show. And I turned him away, and that agent called me up all upset and said, you just cost me money for turning that photographer away. And then the client said, but my home is in disarray. It's not ready to have photos. This place is a complete mess. And so I said here, and then so my contractor worked up an estimate, and said, okay, it's going to cost about $12,000 to $15,000 repairs. If you want to do some of the repairs, you yourself, like rip out your own carpet and throw stuff into and throw stuff into the dumpster. You can.
You're good. You can take care of them. I'll cut it out.
Hey, what's up?
Daddy, I'm trying.
Daddy's talking to him. Okay? Daddy's talking to him. You see, that's my friend. You want to sit on Daddy's lap? Okay. I'm just going to sit here. And so what's interesting is that I sat down with my client and I said, I'm going, and I said, this is what you're really going to net after the cost of repairs and also cost of capital provided for the repairs. And they said, you know what, Steve? I haven't heard back from the other agent. He hasn't heard back from his handyman. They said I would have to come out of pocket for the repairs, and I don't have any money. That's why I'm selling my house. And I talked to the credit repair guy. He said it's going to be 6 months. And she goes, Steve, I'm hiring you. You know what you're doing. You have a plan. It's all strategic. And I need to deal with somebody who's going to know how to get me into my next property. And the reason I'm selling this house, I need to free up $100,000 of equity to get into my next property, but I also want to pay off some debt, pay off some cars, and get into a better home for my family. And you got a plan, a strategy to get me there. The other agent is just come list me in as is condition agent, and you know what? I think that's very unprofessional.
Yeah, and that's a huge competitive advantage of what you offer, right?
Yeah.
And really taking care of them and helping them get from point A to point B versus having all these things broken out, right? And they have to try to get everything put together themselves.
Correct.
So I think that's a huge competitive advantage that not a lot of realtors offer.
I don't think I've met one who offers it. I've seen other agents who will line up an electrician or a handyman, and then they ask for the homeowner to pay for that. But I haven't seen any other agents out there say, "Hey, let me open up my wallet," because a lot of them are afraid. Go, "Hey, what happens if that client defaults and I never get my money back?" You know what? People have integrity. and people, they're trusting me to sell their home. I should trust them as much as they should trust me to sell their home, their biggest asset and biggest decision in their life. And so, you know what, has there been some people before that have not been able to pay me back? Sure. You know what, maybe I lost $1,000 once for somebody who got a deathly illness right before closing, couldn't close. You know what, I've lost $7,500 once on somebody whose wife died, and then while they were trying to sell it, their kid picked up meth and started smoking meth in the back bedroom while we put in new paint, new carpet. You know what? I never look back. I don't regret ever helping them out, because this is the business of helping people. But I have benefited substantially more than I've ever lost in this business, and that's how business is ran. It's always ran off of calculated rewards and calculated losses, and as long as your wins and gains are substantially higher than your losses, you'll always come out ahead.
Yeah. So then the last question I have for you is what are you seeing in the market today, and how are you adjusting for it?
Dad's here. Daddy has to be with him. Okay, then you sit on my lap. How am I? Where's the market at, and how am I
Adjusting for it.
adjusting to it? I'm one of the few agents that'll tell you that the market's topped and we are on our way down. Yeah, here it is, September of 2018. We've had 10 years of recovery and 10 years of gains, and we're due for a recession, and we have a recession here probably in the next 6 to 18 months. And the Federal Reserve is going to rate hike us into a recession. They're getting a little too aggressive. The buyers absorbed the first series of rate increases up until this summer of 2018. After that, each additional rate increases just continue to take away more buyers' purchasing power to the point that there's not enough buyers out there to support today's high prices. Sellers were raising prices at the same time Fed was raising rates, and that type of correlation is bound to break, and it's actually broken and now. And so what I've seen the last 2 to 4 weeks is that in order to move homes, it's price reductions, and I've had to take more price reductions on my listings than I've ever had to take in the last ever since I've been doing this. And according to Redfin, they did a report last week that I read that 25% of homes across the nation have had to take price reductions of 1% or more in order to sell their homes, and that's taking longer to sell their homes, and that's going to continue to each additional rate increase moving forward is going to remove 3 to 5% of purchasing power for each buyer, and it's going to have to reduce home prices by 3 to 5%. We got 5 rate increases ahead of us. December of this year, 1 more, and we got 3 next year and 1 after that. So this last rate increase here, your homeowners are going to have to take a 3 to 5% rate or price decrease to get their home sold, and then and we get another one here in December, and 3 next year. That's 5. We can make it to the 6th one. I don't know if the Fed will even get that far before they realize they hike us into a recession. But that'd be 6 rate increases times that by 3 to 5%. You're looking at about a 8 to a possibly 30% correction in home prices before demand picks up. And right now, it costs a lot more to own than it does to rent, and with each additional rate increase, it's only making it that much harder to own. And rents are not going up at the same pace as mortgage payments, and so therefore homeowners are going to have to adjust it in home prices.
That's a lot of insight. Thank you for that. Like I said, nobody's willing to look and kind of show us what's going to happen, right? Or be that upfront with it. Everybody hopes that it'll last for another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, if you wait until it's on the news, you're probably close to the bottom. And so in this business, what I've learned in business is you have to be a contrarian. The contrarians make the most money. So when it was 2008, 9, and 10, you know what? Those people who are buying when everyone else didn't want to buy, they paid off big dividends. I was at a closing here this last week where the person bought in 2013 and they sold here this last week because they feel the market's topping out, and they bought a home for $150, sold it for $250, and after commissions they just walked away with an $85,000 check. Those are the people that are smart in this business, but if you're going to hold on for the last dollar, you're just going to chase the market down, and you'll never be ahead of the market.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Stephen, and appreciate you giving us a lot of insight and what's made you successful.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anytime.
Okay.